around if you need to. If something is not quite as legible because you're a bit further back, come to the front. We have an opportunity because again, there's not completely filled up rows of seats to just make this very conversational. I don't mind that at all. I think it's actually a huge benefit to us. So, does it seem like we got everybody from outside?
I think so.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. So, take what you want. Take the pins. Take a brochure or a flyer. No, of course. That goes to everybody, not just me. So, Vienna, my favorite city I'm touring in. Okay, good, a little chuckle. I like that. I'm just trying to break the ice a little bit. I'm here to speak with you folks today about competitive gaming or esports in a college environment nowadays. Of course, it's a rapidly changing industry here, especially in North America, because we play a lot in different markets and things like that. We have a huge consumer culture, and so what we do with games, when we have a lot of game developers based in the U.S. as well, ends up having a lot of ripple effect for the rest of the world and how they approach esports, in a sense. So, first of all, I wanted to thank you all for taking the time to be here in the first place, and thank you, Mr. Dilly and iCode, for facilitating all of this as well. I think it's actually very important and very forward-thinking that people are starting to embrace esports and be curious about this type of thing, especially when it comes to educational settings. So the first thing we think about when we think about competitive gaming is just video games themselves, right? We think about esports. What is esports? It's electronic gaming, right? It's something that has been around for a very long time. But this definition of esports has actually evolved and changed, well, actually since 1962. When Space Wars was a game that came out a long time ago. And actually Space Wars, you could say, on the Stanford campus in 1972, was the first esports competition. People were playing on the big PDP-1 computers that basically built like a quarter of this space, right? And having competitions on the college campus, trying to maneuver their spaceship and use missiles to shoot other spacecraft, right? So esports itself has actually been something that's been practiced for several decades. And that's one of the things I emphasize. I teach at GMU, and I'm going to delve into my life story in just a moment. So don't think I skipped an introduction on myself. But the history of how things have evolved with gaming as a competitive practice has actually evolved from direct player versus player interfacing, like Pong, right? And high scores like Space Invaders or Mario runs, right? With points being measured. Now, esports and gaming has evolved in such a way that the actual competitive nexus is extremely complex, right? We know that somebody is winning based upon a variety of different factors when it comes to games nowadays. It's very complex. There's many ways to accomplish winning a game, and it varies by title and the genre of games themselves. Coincidentally, or not coincidentally rather, just like the traditional sports industry, esports itself has been evolving to have a more mature industry to support and provide infrastructure around it. And so sports management as a practice started in the early 1900s, right? We're kind of seeing the same evolution and model of development happen to esports right now, where we see growing importance in academia with a lot of colleges and institutions throughout the country coming up with minors, coming up with certificates, online classes, and full-on degrees in esports. And I'll show you folks that that doesn't just mean gaming. It means being able to be a participant in the industry. It means being able to get a job in doing things like being part of a production crew, for example. A couple of folks here are doing stuff like that, creating marketing content. Esports is very interdisciplinary. It's not just playing video games. And so some of the more recognizable titles you may be aware of, and perhaps your children or friends, maybe even play. I know I do. Overwatch, League of Legends, Counter-Strike, Valorant, FIFA, which is now EA Sports FC, Rocket League, Hearthstone, various auto chess games, and more. There's a So, I don't know if anybody has ever seen Derek Zoolander, right? In Zoolander, he picks up the Time article from a wastebasket at the gas station. He sees himself on the cover, and it says, "A model, idiot," right? But the quote is that he's an idiot and a model, and me, I'm a gamer idiot, right? Okay. Not funny unless you've seen the movie, perhaps. So I actually was born in California, and I spent most of my life actually growing up throughout Africa. Both my folks served in the State Department, and I was raised for a very long time, from the 90s, to think that I have to work for the government, right? This is my DC area upbringing, so to speak, even though I grew up throughout Africa. This was my family mindset. Join the State Department or do something military or federal related and be successful. That was the model of success for me. And so what ended up happening was I went to Syracuse for my undergrad, studied a lot of counterterrorism and security policy. Graduated with honors, did great and all that. Went to William & Mary for graduate studies, got a master's in public policy, specialized in national security and defense studies, and then went into the consulting world. Wow, what a unique story for the DC area. I have not met anybody who's ever had that. But in reality, I was working for Deloitte on my most recent work stint, right, in that field, and I left at the end of 2019 for a variety of reasons, which kind of triggered this abrupt change in my life. In 2016, my mother unexpectedly passed away while serving the government, managing the embassy in South Africa. A year after that, another aunt passed away. A year after that, a couple grandmothers passed away. A year after that, another aunt of mine passed away. My wife, after our wedding, she had to have a major surgery to get a tumor removed in her neck, right? And this all made me think a lot about what I'm doing, what is important to me, what things do I value, what am I spending my time on? And I realized that actually there's two constants in my life. My emphasis on health. I love exercising, I love working out, I do it every day. And gaming, because for me, gaming was actually a way of sort of hitting the pause button at the end of a long day of work, all the stress, all this 3-hour commute days, where I was able to just detach from it and enable myself to decompress before I had to go to sleep. Usually a lot of people, I think if we have sleep issues, we kind of go to sleep long enough. It doesn't end up in the most quality sleep. Gaming was a way for me to actually to achieve that. So I started playing League of Legends. Well, actually, I get to that on the next slide. And so now I made my transition actually at the tail start, the front end start of COVID in 2020, where I started to work for Northern Virginia Community College coaching League of Legends, which is my specialty. Coaching and playing League of Legends competitively for 11 years now. Well, a little more than that. And then ended up during COVID, the chancellor at Syracuse University put out a mandate saying, my gosh, we don't have so much student activity, we're not capable of tapping new audiences and enrollments down. When the schools hear enrollments down, what do they want to do? They want to attract more enrollment, right? So Syracuse put out a mandate to expand remote learning opportunities. So one of the deans who was my director in DC here, knew me well, knew I was in esports, called me and said, hey Jordan, can you develop online learning content for esports for us so we can have online classes? I said, absolutely, I'd love to do that. Did that, and reached out with GMU, and GMU has brought me in to be a professor in esports, right? I proposed a minor in esports management, which actually just got approved 2 weeks ago. So now there will be a whole area of study for a degree purposes that we'll have at George Mason University. I do a lot of other things as well because in esports you have to wear a lot of hats. You have to understand that it's a highly competitive industry. And everybody who works in esports tends to learn a lot of different skills. Two folks in the back there, they have a variety of skills. I promise they're not just proficient in marketing materials or doing live streams. They've played games, they've organized tournaments, they've done a lot of things that really showcase how excellent they are. And so, as I said, I'm also a father. I have a 2-year-old son. It's awesome. I'll show you a picture from later. Internet gamer, why, right? Why was I drawn to esports? Why was it compelling? And it actually, I love this game called League of Legends. There's me coaching at one more recent tournament down at Radford that was hosted by the Mid-Atlantic Esports Conference. I fell in love with League of Legends as a game and in graduate school when, unfortunately, a passing class, I think this is like a recurring theme of these passing some kind of life change, or me thinking deeper about who I am and what I want to do, what am I spending my time on. And League of Legends actually, for me, was a way to hit that pause button at the end of a long day, spending 14 hours in the law library studying. I was worried I might lose my scholarship or my research assistantship, whatever, because it's hard. Studying is hard. And gaming was just a way for me to be able to compartmentalize things and address them as I was able to. And so that's sort of why I came to love esports. Partially. Before that as well, I was actually really into traditional sports, believe it or not. Relatively small stature, but I played a lot of hockey in this area. I've done a lot of martial arts. I met my wife actually doing martial arts, teaching basic karate. Esports was another way for me to feel like I was part of a team-based environment again, and having that camaraderie was very important to me as well. So, what do we do at Nova? Well, a lot of people when they approach esports, they understand, okay, it's competitive gaming, but what does it look like in a college setting, right? Well, for a place like Northern Virginia Community College, it means there's a program which provides students with an opportunity to compete at a national level. Junior college level especially, we provide a whole program where people are able to go through tryouts, participate in a variety of game titles, and also do some volunteer work for the program, help social media postings, help stream games, things like that. We provide a platform for professional growth as well and professional development by providing these job opportunities. We help resume crafting. We help people network and find jobs. It's a very tight-knit community. And we try, and we succeed as well. Northern Virginia Community College is actually one of the best community colleges in the country for esports. During the COVID years, it's not really a term yet, I guess, the COVID era, we won 6 national championships at the junior college level, and actually got a congratulatory letter from the governor of Virginia in the process. So now the students that were around for that are able to put on their resumes, hey, got acknowledged by the governor of Virginia, participating in this esport, and succeeding nationally on that level. When you graduate from such a place, you have the opportunity to go to large 4 years, just like George Mason University, where there's a huge infrastructure and all sorts of activities surrounding esports. Of course, if you're unfamiliar, George Mason University is the largest public institution in Virginia, right? There's over 40,000 students, thousands of staff, and a lot of large events on campus. You may enjoy their traffic on Riot Road sometimes, I know I do. We now are able to offer academic opportunities, dozens of work-related experiences every single year for students to be part of a large program, organize events that end up having thousands of attendees, and students are able to put this all on their resumes to showcase the fact that they were part of this building experiences for people. And the Discord itself has over close to 3,500 members. So we're talking about a large community of George Mason University that's impacted, large enough that we're able to attract sponsors and partners anyway, right? And GMU succeeds. Back in the fall, we had one of the nation's top Counter-Strike teams, the #2 ranking one, and we were actually flown to Boise, Idaho to compete at the Nationals. Large televised event, tons of sponsors, very, very, very successful lineage of competing in esports. Also, Rocket League has won a lot of Mid-Atlantic esports conference titles as well, so we actually have a lot of success with that title as well. And growing, of course. We continue to develop, attract new talent, and cultivate better coaches and a healthy competitive atmosphere. Again, this is conversational. Feel free to jump in if you want to. Now, I've told you what both of those institutions do when it comes to competitive gaming, how they're loosely organized. I haven't walked you through the whole flow chart of everything, but you get a sense of how we function overall. But does competitive gaming, in that sense, belong in colleges and universities? I'm convinced it does because, yes, I work in it, but I've seen the impact that it provides for a lot of people. And, of course, when people are going through higher education, one of their concerns is, I'm getting this higher education to go get a job, right? Well, fortunately, researchers out there like Nicolas Besson in France, he's actually a doctor of sociology and sport, he came up with a lot of graphics, not just this one, and a lot of great research on esports, depicting, he's from Université de Cité. It's not the University of Paris, it's the school that's put off. That's not that important, but just for reference, he's a really popular scholar in the research space for esports. And he came up with this infographic, this kind of web, to showcase the variety of career fields you may pursue. Don't worry about squinting, I go to every quadrant of this. Okay? Well, actually, let's go back to the center for a moment. You can kind of see in the middle, there's performance optimization, media, events organization, entertainment, education, like me, business, sales marketing, communication, information technology, broadcasting, digital space, all kinds of jobs connected in this centralized esports related professions kind of nexus, right? So this is the top left quadrant here. We're looking at things related to performance optimization. Esports provides skill training and natural skill development through participation in esports ecosystems in the realms that get people interested in health management, performance management. How do we know that one of your children is actually going to be a high-performing gamer? And the reality is they can't just sit at the computer for 15 hours and be good, right? We know now, especially, that you need water breaks. You need to get up and stretch. You need an exercise routine. You need to be able to be cognizant that there's mental health dynamics behind this. Physical health is important. You want to perform as an athlete, you need to know how to live a holistically balanced life. If you want to perform as a competitive gamer, a lot of the demands are shared because it's just part of performance as a science, right? So performance management, we have people getting into there's actual careers in esports nutrition, there's esports physical therapy. There's actual companies that go out and provide esports physical therapy consulting because they specialize in a lot of things that we do, right? What do a lot of us do for jobs? We sit like this all day. And that's considered like a new slogan, right? It's true. It doesn't help us rise to our best. And there's a whole swath of studies that are actually parallel to helping office workers optimize their own health in the same way gamers have to as well, right? We can't be our best if we're not tending to our aspects of the self. And so, of course, a lot of the very top left here, we see a lot of the things that we think of traditionally when we think of sports. We see head coaches. We see video analysts, right? I'm a huge Washington Capitals fan. They have video analysts, they have team managers, they have equipment managers. But for esports, it's actually quite about the same thing. There's a lot of people that are collecting data. There's scouts going out there across the globe to figure out which players are really good at certain games and try to get them to join a team. All of these things are part of esports. And then I'll start moving my way around the graphic as well. Of course, we get into things like entertainment, which is kind of in the middle there. People who are casting, people who do broadcasts, people that color commentators and things like that. Education, teachers like me, people who help develop esports academic programs, right? Help develop degrees, help create classes and educate people in the industry. Researchers, I'm not a huge fan of that one. I love the doing, so I should be doing more of that. To be honest with you. This one interests me a lot. Legal stuff, right? Esports law is becoming a really oddly important field because it deals so much with intellectual property. That's growing in importance, but there's not a lot of people who specialize in it. Who knows? One of your kids might have to go into college to specialize in esports law. It's something they're from the new industry, right? Financial, much like any entertainment business or whatnot, there's always people managing money. People, financial analysts giving forecasts about what may be the best allocation of funds, or what people should be investing in, how should we manage partners. Human resources, of course, a lot of the typical things that we see that are necessary for organizations to function. Normal bureaucracy things, making sure that people know what their jobs are and everything's documented. Things that help streamline the business. Normal administration-related jobs and business-related jobs. And commercial stuff too. There's a lot of things that have to do with business development, insurance, who's giving us the software to do these types of things, or providing us training providing my employees with training on how to make sure we avoid security, cybersecurity pitfalls. And then sales and marketing, it's an entertainment industry, right? All of this stuff, all of these jobs in the esports field are the same ones that you see servicing traditional sports. Very much so. Brand managers, people have to think about merchandise, how they market their esports organization. I know we in college, we're still involved, you know, if anybody's not familiar, George Mason University just did a huge brand innovation or a kind of like renaissance itself, where they switched to the GM, right? We're no longer GMU, or Mason, we're GM now. People in esports are concerned about the same things, right? How much is our brand worth? What can we do with that brand? How does it shape our identity? And that all goes in sales and marketing related activity. And of course, there's digital stuff. Everybody's engaged with social media nowadays. Maybe it's not TikTok, it's banned, who knows? But the reality is we need people developing web pages to showcase, hey, we've got this esports tournament going on. You get those skills working in esports programs pretty quickly. Graphic designers, who's making the fun video clips of iCode and GMU together to create this awesome esports event, right? Who's going out and making these things, collecting the footage, just like we've got going on in the back right now. Important jobs, very important jobs, and it also helps proof of concept if you're trying to get sponsors and marketing materials. Of course, communication things, there's a lot of streamlining of identity of brands and corporate alignment on missions and things like that. You know, these typical types of jobs. Then we kind of go into a bit more of the traditional mindset when people think about, okay, what kind of jobs can you get doing video games? Obviously, you can go work for a game developer, right? You could specialize in esports and go work for the company that makes that same game. But you're just not touching the doing of the game. You're helping improve the game, or you're helping manage player experiences, for example. So software engineers, network engineers, all those types of things are job tools too. Then we get into the aspects of broadcast. It's a tiny bit like media, but we're talking about the proliferation of that media itself. Dealing with broadcast distribution, the rights of who gets to stream things, all very sensitive stuff, by the way. Amazon, Google, Disney, all of them are fighting over broadcast rights for who gets to be able to advertise esports and showcase live matches, right? Amazon was very smart buying Twitch for very cheap a while ago. It's more than doubled in value. But a lot of these jobs relate to production of live events, basically. And so all of that, event referees, now we're talking about event operations, event management, things like that, up here in the top of this quadrant that I'm showing you. Producing large events, getting coverage on them, photographers, administrators, or referees of the event, making sure the actual event flows smoothly. These are all types of jobs related to esports at the moment. Of course, there's more nuances as we proceed. But as you can kind of see, there's a lot of opportunity, right? So perhaps your child is interested in gaming but doesn't know how to manifest that as a job because they're not in the top 0.0001% of all players in North America. I think there's a lot of opportunity out there in that web I just showed that it illustrates exactly what kind of paths they could take. Maybe they have, hey, I'm a really great player, but I also love streaming at home and showcasing my personality. Well, they can get a job developing their content for the brand. You can become a paid streamer and be part of a large organization. The Monumental Sports Network owns Washington Capitals and Washington Wizards and the Mystics and the Go-Go and whatnot. They actually own the largest esports franchise in North America called Team Liquid as well. Majority of it. You could end up being a content producer for them. If, for example, tracking that example, that's what you're interested in. So we say, okay, that all sounds good, but is there like real examples of what actually happens when people who study esports pursue it in terms of a variety of college level engagement? Well, the reality is, yes, because a lot of employers nowadays are actually quite keen on the reality that gamers are puzzle solvers, right? They're problem-solving individuals with creative thinking skills. Game developers, of course, they love knowing someone has played their game and very well known to hire gamers because gamers have proximate skills, things like coding, content, content development, web design, all very attractive skills that gamers just kind of happen to have because we hang around in that space naturally, or we cultivate them in college esports experiences and ecosystems. And of course, the military, the federal government, love gamers as well, contractors as well. And I give a real example here. Last year, Miner actually held a series of events on Air Force bases and actually Miner locations as well, in conjunction with the Air Force Installation and Mission Support Center. And so active duty soldiers, active duty members, service members were actually placed into esports tournaments alongside college students who were gamers. Okay, they did this a few places, South Carolina, here in Tyson's, and I think Dallas, or somewhere in Texas. I can't remember honestly. But they did a series of these tournaments called GameX. And they actually were playing this in-house designed esports game called Drone Guardians. And what you did in that game was everybody on your team, right, military folks versus esports folks, we were all competing to try to address randomized scenarios of an attack on an airstrip with limited information and limited resources every single time the simulation was run. And everybody on each team had different roles and responsibilities and different tools each time to play out the scenario. And it made for a very engaging experiment. And they spent a lot of money doing this and specifically trying to target esports as a way to showcase this research. To show, how do people perform under pressure? Where do they want to allocate resources? And they were using these resources to help inform how to best position resources on critical mission support scenarios. And so basically risk mitigation, right, for bases. And that's just one example. It was really cool because it's military and decently financed. A lot of people got to get free money from participating in these tournaments. Always a good thing. It was fun and stuff too. Very neat. I hope they do another one. But actually, the one I was at, the service members actually won. So maybe college game is not the part. Who knows? States. States are investing a lot in esports because they understand it as a way to generate economic activity. North Carolina, Georgia, California, and a few other states are among the leaders throughout the nation in attracting esports for a variety of reasons. One, they're attracting high-tech and employee force, right, workforce. Two, they like attracting large esports events because it does stimulate economic activity, it creates jobs, it creates temporary seasonal jobs, and it also puts a spotlight on their cities. We see here, PNC Arena, actually, where the Carolina Hurricanes play, and if I'm not mistaken, NC State's basketball team also plays there. This is an esports tournament, not even for one of the top video game titles out there, for Apex Legends, right? Which, compared to other esports, it has a relatively modest number of fans. But here they are in that whole venue doing an esports event. North Carolina went went to a lot of effort to try to continue to do these events. Now North Carolina has a lot of events every year to do esports events just like this. In 2021, actually, they introduced the legislature introduced House Bill 945, in which they were incentivizing companies with tax credits, or tax write-offs, basically. Tax credits, yeah. Worth millions of dollars to bring esports events to the state. So essentially, you could have an event and then, mitigate a lot of costs, stimulate a lot of interest in the local economy and also for their business. What ended up happening is, yes, they had several esports events a year. And what it also meant, and this is a quote up here that you might not be able to see, so I'll read that out for you. Section 3 moves $5 million in non-recurring funds from the State Capital and Infrastructure Fund to the Board of Governors of the University of North Carolina for the planning, development, and construction of an esports training and education center at NC State University, and $2.5 million in non-recurring funds for the purchase of an esports training and education center. state itself is getting millions of dollars directly funneled to colleges and public institutions to support the growth of esports because they recognize, forward-thinking legislatures, of course, are trying to compete with other states, be the first to be there so they can attract companies and jobs and whatnot, and talented workforce. Virginia actually is losing a lot of scholarship-worthy players to out-of-state schools, by the way, that they're paying for our private schools. Something to think about. It's tricky. I don't want to get into it. But anyway, they recognize that there is large economic incentive to be engaged in esports in a very meaningful way. It's signed by the governor. It's House legislature passed all the recommended bill. But what about here? What about in our region? What do we do, right? So the media is actually quite in place. We have a lot of interesting things going on. Monumental, as I mentioned, actually is the majority owner of the largest North American esports franchise, Team Liquid. And we have a venue called District E. It's literally right next to Capital One Arena. It used to be Bar Louie. I don't know if folks hang out in Chinatown that much. But basically, they hosted the Winter Games for the Mid-Atlantic Esports Conference, which is basically, over a dozen colleges and universities in our area participating in that as a way of our regional infrastructure for competitive gaming. And they built that venue for specifically their NBA 2K league, which, NBA 2K, it's people playing basketball, video game style, right? And I remember when we were at this Winter Games, there were a lot of people stopping to watch all of the colleges competing right there in the venue, while the Jonas Brothers concert was happening right next door. Pretty funny. What's going on? Where are all these playing video games? But there were large sponsors, thousands of dollars raised for Children's National Hospital, and of course hosted by large entertainment dominating companies like Monumental in this area. Then, sure, okay, fine. That's examples of why there may be jobs and why the economic impact and importance of esports might be relevant. But can you be sure that if your child goes to school for esports that they actually are doing something worthwhile? I suppose some lofty, fun tales that we like to idealize, right? Let me give you some examples to show, besides, well, you know what, I can't use myself as an example because I didn't actually do esports in school in the same way that people are able to nowadays. But look at that. It's a very familiar person right here, Eric Chiswell. Esports nurtures professional development in a very, very big way. The doing of esports is way more complex than simply sitting at a computer or a TV playing Xbox, right? It's a complex and comprehensive experience which enables people to actually develop a lot of job marketable skills. Kara is a great example of it. Just graduated. She's already working for iCode here. Absolutely doing a phenomenal job. She comes with a background of content creation and marketing. She's worked for the Washington Justice professional Overwatch team that was based here in DC. Competing in national. She wasn't one of the players, but she worked with the team that competed at the national and international level at the highest level for Overwatch. Now working for Timeless Overwatch, which is kind of the successor of the Overwatch League, and managing social accounts. Because of her work there, she was actually part of the City DC Open, the large tennis annual tournament. Content creating and capturing, I don't know how to, social media content creation and capturing for that, which is huge. I mean, who gets an opportunity to work in a major sporting annual event, right? She's the former president of GMU Esports as well, which is great. But I wish she'd come back to grad school and continue to work with the program, which is phenomenal. And now she's the assistant director of marketing program for iCode Vienna, which is phenomenal. She's immensely talented. I know she gets to put cool things like being a panelist at major conventions, right? Having all of this work experience from just 2 years in college being engaged in esports, it unlocks so many doors, and her skill set is a huge testament to her capabilities as a person. But the reality is that the esports experience has enabled a lot of these things. I have another example here. The gentleman on camera, right? Okay, stage names. This is the stage. Anthony Wood goes by Grayson. Earlier on, I mentioned about how the Counter-Strike team was the second best in the nation, traveled to Boise for the national tournament. Basically, he's got a large amount of experience and accolades competitively, right? We talked about all the job skills Tara has, and she's phenomenal. On the competitive side too, there's a lot of merit, right? You think about, hey, can maybe my kid get paid to play or win tournament money? And the reality is, in just 2 semesters, he earned over $4,000 competing in a variety of esports tournaments while being a full-time student and while working full-time at Leidos as a systems administrator. My gosh, this guy is a nerd, right? Oh, he's just playing video games. Nah, he's crushing it in all aspects of life. And I pulled a quote from him because I wanted to. He's actually, well, I guess the class is, but he's a student now. He said, working at Leidos requires a lot of communication, collaboration, and the ability to work in a team. Sounds like most companies, right? And workplaces in general. Coincidentally, so does Counter-Strike, the game that they play. So just by being the team manager of Counter-Strike and leading them to nationally acclaimed and competitive tournaments, we recognize and say, hey, I got a lot of my workplace skills and a lot of my ability to work with people from the fact that I'm a leader on a team. These things are very important, and yeah, you can get them through a variety of means, but esports is clearly helping to provide a lot of different experiences for skill development. I pulled an example here from Northern Virginia Community College. We have a Nova Valorant player and assistant coach who actually, when you think of gamers, we think of a lot of course, negative stereotypes. So, oh, yeah, if they're playing video games, are they able to maintain their studies? Can they keep a good GPA? Well, Nick Keith here, who is one of my examples, is a dual associate's major in engineering and computer science, which is kind of hard. He got a 4.0 GPA while working a part-time job with a program called College Steps, which helps people with autism achieve life independence and develop skills as well. So he was working part-time as well, dual majoring, and then transferred to UPenn, Ivy League institution, right? And now he's there from just his esports experiences. He's gotten these references, he's built up these skills, and he's learned about the infrastructure of esports from Nova. Now he's at the University of Pennsylvania helping them to grow a program too. These are amazing things to be able to say on the resume. Hey, I did all this. I was a competitive gamer. I competed nationally. But, I had a job. I did well in school. Gamers are not just reduced to the stereotype of not being able to balance lives. If you're in a well-supported college infrastructure, you can do it all, right? And that's what these institutions or our programs are designed to do, provide a structured learning experience for people who are interested in esports so that they can succeed. We know it's not just all about playing video games and competition. There's a real success rate too. And this is a weird coincidence. So his dad is actually a coworker of my father at the State Department. That's huge coincidence. Both people specialize in Africa. Very weird. Small world. But it just goes to show. I had a point for saying that. I asked him, because if you think about people who are traditionally successful in the government and quasi old school, I guess you could say, both of our dads actually talked about it. And I talked about it with him and I talked about it with his father. And I was like, what does your dad think about you playing video games in college? He's like, actually, I think this is cool. He loves the fact that I'm doing well, that it's introduced him to a social environment, that it's helped him learn time management skills, that's helped him actually learn how to be pushed to balance things, because we draw a line. We say, these are the practice times. Be punctual. This is the competitive time that we play every Saturday. Be there on time. Be accountable to your teammates. Make sure that you understand that you're representing the institution. You can't just go off and say bad words that are going to come back and haunt you. You represent the institution. We take that very seriously in college space. It's actually a very serious thing like this code of conduct and Office of Registrar Coordination with competitive leagues nationally. It's not an unregulated space. It's a very great space for healthy competition. Yeah.
So what about your dad? What's he think?
It took him, okay. Right, that's a great question, because you're listening. You remember, before I was raised to believe that traditionally I'm supposed to go work for the government, right? And so my dad, I remember my mom telling me, Jordan, like, why are you spending so much time playing this? This is after grad school. I was already working. I was doing all right. And she saw me playing, and she's like, Jordan, like, what are you doing? You should do something else. I'm like, Mom, these people are paying me to play with them right now. And I was like, no, I'm pretty good at this. I'm on the top. I was at the time the top 0.065% of all players in North America. And she was like, oh, okay. And my dad, unfortunately, he's passed away, but my father, he thinks it's interesting because he's visited a lot of our GMU events actually, and been in space, and a lot of people I work with, and he thinks it's neat. He says, like, I'm really proud that Jordan had the courage to like make this change and decision. So that's like a nice thing, nice reality that, you know, I got to prove to him that this is viable, right? Competitive gaming, maybe 20 years ago, you would have had to gone and work for a developer. Maybe you would have been lucky and work for Epic Games, and eventually you got to work on the Fortnite production game, right? But now there's a whole bevy of industry options you can pursue, just like the one I showed you before. And he's happy. It's different, but it's growing on him the more he sees it materialize and come to fruition, if that makes sense. North America has a long way to go. South Korea was actually calling competitive gaming esports in the year 2000. We only started doing it in the past 17 years. So North America, we're getting there, right? But the college scene here is extremely strong. So I will say, this is the rebrand, by the way. If you haven't seen George Mason University's new logo, it's GM now. Under the School of Sport, Recreation, and Tourism Management, I proposed a series of classes based upon national research what other institutions are doing and have been successful in, designing curriculum for esports-related majors and minors. And it's approved, which is cool, because now it validates people who want to study esports. Maybe they're interested in gaming, but they don't know quite how to make that a good job. I think that's a lot of movement, right? I know that's me too. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Yeah, when I was in esports, I went to coaching, which is kind of a traditional mindset. The reality is it's much more broad. Introduction to sports management. Esports is very much akin as the entertainment industry to how traditional sports is being run. Therefore, intro to sports management is important. You get to take esports fundamentals of competitive gaming with me. I am the favorite professor on campus, I promise you, because I get people to play video games as part of their class so they can see evolution over time, what makes things competitive, what drives people to want to have bragging rights, things like that. Introduction to event management. Just like we saw in North Carolina, the pictures of stadiums being used for pro sports, being used for esports, event management is huge in esports because it means economic activity and it showcases the culture when it comes together to create events, right? Who doesn't want to watch a Super Bowl when it comes to the gaming side of their choice, right? Event management is critical. And that's why you can see a lot of things targeted toward event operation, event management, these marketing and sales, sports marketing and sales, a lot of overlap here. Event technical production, people like folks in this room who know how to work a camera, they can work a mixer, right? They understand the audio needs, the lighting. This is terrible on me right now. This wouldn't have happened if one of my students was running this community center. I'm just kidding. It's a joke. It's a joke. This is phenomenal. Business and professional communication and sport communication, right? All these things are necessary, and of course, esports practical. We don't let people escape without applying their skills. You can't. It's impossible, actually. If you're involved in the esports program at George Mason University, you automatically get roped into hosting large events with thousands of people on campus, because that's just the way we operate. You get directly engaged in work experiences all the time at George Mason University. We also have some electives that we're going to be choosing. So if people have a special interest in game design, they know they want to work for a developer, they can opt that way. And there's some other things on the table too, which we're entertaining. I can't remember off the top of my head on the spot, but there will be other electives added to this list. This is not complete. But these are a lot of the core classes that you'll have to take to get this minor esports degree. what would that be? Where should I think of? This, I have a few slides to just kind of show industry trends in general because I think it's interesting to look at what we're trying to do in college, preparing people to launch into this kind of space, right? We look at total prize money, right? That's one metric. It's not the greatest metric in the world because it doesn't show size of the industry. It just shows how big events developers want to make esports. And, okay, fine. It's millions of dollars every year, right? You play in the largest esports tournaments every year. There is a lot of money on the table, globally speaking. North America itself, hundreds of millions of dollars every year in esports events that are up for grabs for, because esports is a variety of titles, right? You can specialize in any number of video games. And so they all contribute toward that. There are large prize pools in esports, and that just kind of shows overall activity. That's the main takeaway I want people to get from that. Now, esports audience growth. There's actually another graphic which I didn't include, but it was an interesting one. And it came out of Syracuse from their MBA program, actually, that showed that in North America, the only sport which outpaces viewership of collective esports, not just one game, okay, that's a caveat, is the NFL. So you have way more people watching esports as an umbrella category than you do things like ice hockey, of course, right? I'm a hockey fan. But I realized, okay, esports is kind of attractive, new thing, shiny new industry, right? And the reality is that the esports audience growth has been growing a lot over time. COVID, we saw a lot of people turn to online entertainment formats and therefore kind of reconnect with the roots of gaming. People are like, oh yeah, I'm working from home. Maybe I'm on lunch break, I'll sneak in a little game. I don't know, Valorant, Counter-Strike, things like this. And connect with my friends. It's a great way when we can't see each other for our kickball league to connect over gaming, which is what I love, physical and esports. And what it's done is actually helped revitalize a lot of interest in people watching, spectators of esports. We got people engaged in esports. We saw actually during the pandemic, does anybody know what Fortnite is here? Heard of heard of a small game called Fortnite? Okay, so Tim Sweeney, who is the CEO of Epic Games, who actually started his company here in Maryland and moved to North Carolina. He was the Forbes Media Person of the Year in, was it 2021 or was it 2000? One of the COVID years, largely because of the Travis Scott in-game concert that had millions of hours watched, right? Everybody was going into this esports game called Fortnite to collectively have a concert experience together. We couldn't do that in person during quarantine, right? And that shows you the power of what esports is able to do. And then people, we understand, hey, in this metaverse, VR space, or even just the esports games, you have a way of now participating in interactive events together. That's just the reality. So, this is just esports market revenue worldwide over a period of 5 years. Again, just kind of driving home the reality that we see a steady increase. I guess if you're an investor, that's not too steady. That's actually pretty good. Increase in revenue overall year over year in a global trend, right? In U.S. dollars anyway. North America, we kind of have a lot of infrastructure to develop before we fully stabilize, but the college team is incredibly strong when it comes to esports. It's actually larger than the pro esports scene here in North America. The college system is an unbelievable force in America, as you folks may know. So, what's it cost institutions, right? What's bad for schools when we have to increase these schools? Not that much, right? A lot of these games are free nowadays because they know that, your kid might ask you for your visa real quick to make a microtransaction in the game. But they know that having the game be free to play means that they'll have access to it and therefore be incentivized to buy these microtransactions. It's okay, but it does mean that I can go to, we can get computers on campus and then download a game and be able to participate in esports. That's one of the great things about esports is the barrier to entry. It's not really that high at all. So to speak. Nationally, the trend is college enrollment being down. If folks are unaware of this, the reality is that a lot of institutions in the past 7 at this point years great school, first of all, but a lot of youth learned about Robert Morris University because they realized, oh, God, the first school in the country to offer scholarships for playing video games. Revolutionary. Shenandoah University, an hour away from here, was the first school in the nation to offer a multi-track major in esports. Amazing, right? And then what it does is for prospective college students, they're like, oh my gosh, I can study gaming. I want to go there, right? So now, schools en masse are very much pivoting toward esports because they understand, oh my God, there's academic merit, there's a lot of skill development, there's opportunities to get people engaged in job, actual experience, and oh wow, it attracts some students too. And the bottom line is always very important for us. What that does mean in a roundabout way is that some of these sponsors become attracted to that, right? They realize, oh yeah, more students are engaged, my target demographic is there, I want to advertise, I don't know, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, you name it, to these schools because there's a lot of activity going on. We're 2,500 people are came to the Discord server alone. Can be hit by one message if we say, oh my God, our Coca-Cola sponsorship, hey guys, come to this great tournament where there's going to be free Coca-Cola and we're going to be playing Super Smash Bros. Boom, marketing, right? Sponsors love leveraging the fact that gamers are today. They are. And we have a way of streaming for free. In fact, what he's doing in the back room doing that. And then community engagement. It's not just competitive gaming. We all hang out, we know each other in a way. We all gather for watch parties. Colleges and institutions are aware that embracing esports is a way of embracing a new culture and identity, right? Over time, society always changes toward different modes of entertainment and things that we coalesce around. And gaming is just another one of those expressions of identity, right? And so that's why esports community engagement was actually really important. It's very good for building community. This is University of Irvine, which was one of the earlier institutions to fully embrace esports. And you can see marketing opportunities galore. You know what kind of chair they're using, you know what kind of keyboards they're using, branding everywhere, and a really great way of getting a lot of students in space, getting them together, hosting game nights, getting involved in the gaming space, training them for various skills and production and whatnot. I don't want to go over time too much, but I'll keep going through this real quick. Just examples of the infrastructure that do exist in college, because college can be very confusing. We have NECC and NACE, the National Association of Collegiate Esports. There's hundreds of colleges and universities participating in these every year with national competitions and thousands of dollars of scholarships on the line for top competing players and teams. Large events held nationally, people get opportunities to work on code of conduct boards and competition boards they experience, things like that. Very, very official. Actually, some of these leagues will be working with university's office of registrars to verify that the student is full-time and is maintaining a satisfactory GPA. So no, we're not just throwing people into esports and saying, hey, get whatever grade you can, right? No, you're accountable in college esports ecosystem. Then, of course, you get very large leagues like College League of Legends, where last year alone there was a $190,000 prize pool for the top 16 teams alone, right? With almost 500 colleges and universities in North America participating. An astounding amount of people in an ecosystem participating in one game. College level. Ridiculous. And of course, I talked about regional infrastructure, things like the Mid-Atlantic Esports Conference, where we have a bunch of member schools in this region, and DC works with them, and Game Gym. These are examples of local infrastructure that are actually important to help continue to build up as North America attempts to stabilize and create its own infrastructure. We're a huge country. If we're smaller, if we're just Hawaii, for example, okay, building infrastructure might be easier, but we're talking about building across huge swath of population. So, just to quickly revisit and recap what happens at GMU. We participate in a ton of these and all of those leagues I just referred to. People are winning scholarships, or getting scholarships. People are winning scholarship money in tournaments. They've got a ton of competitive opportunities on the line at the regional and national level. And so the competitive culture team is very astute. There are a lot of work-related opportunities. I think realistically, you can count volunteers probably around 50 every single year provide opportunities for people to actually study esports. And Game Mason was plugging that, got a bunch of sponsors. Actually, in North America, this was the largest esports competition this year in all of North America. We had over 32 teams from 14 different colleges and universities travel to our esports event here at the Fairfax campus in Jordan Mason. And, well, I won't use people's time, but there's great video content that students made to showcase that. And, there's all kinds of interesting areas of study. When we think about the educational aspects, there's a lot of validity to education in the esports space for college. And it's all tied together, right? Because when you're doing esports, you're hanging out with your friends, you're doing streams, you're actually building skills, right? But yeah, so what's next, right? Where are programs housed? Sometimes in athletics departments, sometimes university life or campus recreation. It all depends. Every school has a unique approach. There's a lot of scholarship money out there, a lot of opportunity to structure that and also grow that. A lot of schools taking academics with different approaches. And of course, infrastructure is important. Folks like iCode are who are helping to prepare students to actually get engaged in college level esports. How do you prepare people to have these conversations? How do you get your child to approach a manager or a director of esports at a place like George Mason University and talk about scholarships, right? All of these trainings, this infrastructure that we're building is actually quite important. And I thank you very much for your time. That's my son, as I promised. Theodore, he's 1 year older than that now, but I'm happy to entertain any questions, of course, on any of that content. And I appreciate your folks' time. And I apologize for running over. Miles, former student.
Is Theodore playing League yet?
No, he's 2. He's 2 years old. But he's learned how to ride a bike using his feet without the training wheels. A balance bike, I think they call it. And he says more complex sentences. We go to like Asian grocery stores and we go to the fish section and he says, all dead. Dead. So,
Yeah.
complex thought processes in there. But yeah, great question. Any other questions from folks? Audience first. This is really after your turn.
I was going to ask, have you found a way to marry the
A
skill
wife?
set?
No.
No.
I did successfully. She hated my gaming. No, I'm just kidding. She was very supportive. Yeah, go ahead. Skill sets?
Your skill set from your previous career.
Oh, absolutely. That's a really good question because sometimes I take it for granted. I actually had an opportunity to work for Riot Games before because one of the interesting things with game developers is that they've started to realize it's not enough to hire people who are just part of their culture, right? They want people with professional skills who have actual training, people who are used to working in office environments, understand things like, some game developers have had issues recently, major ones in the areas of harassment, sexual harassment, respecting DEI, and a lot of workplace-related issues. So those major developers have pivoted towards actually favoring people that come from a background of professional skills. So that was an opportunity, but I went to academia because for me, being able to see the impact of the work that I do is beyond gratifying, right? This sounds like a clean bad film. It's not. But it wasn't enough for me to hand PowerPoint or report over to somebody and they say, wow, this is incredible. I don't really know what it does, right? But here I can see exactly what they were all, everybody here was my students in the past. They have amazing skills. I get to see the work that they do when we put on large events. We're immensely talented. That's why I believe in this so much. But no, yes, big time. Approaching sponsors, that helps. The networking ability has been incredibly important. How I met Mr. Dilly. All of those things, all the skills that I inherited from my prior career, I brought to esports because esports is just so interdisciplinary. I can have my best friend. He's a lawyer who's passed the bar in DC and Virginia. He could transition to esports pretty easily, in my opinion, because he knows how to do things like research or meet with high stakeholders. Yeah, that's a good question. Yes, start young. I think nowadays things have become very competitive. Starting young is a very good idea because not only do you start to realize the networks available to you, but as infrastructure in North America is kind of complex in high school, if folks even know what leagues nationally high schools participate in, probably can't name them, right? But if you start young, you understand the pathways of saying, oh, when my son or my daughter goes to Robinson High School or Woodson or what have you, Oakton, I don't know, we should be contacting these teachers at this school. If they oversee esports, we should be ready to sign codes of conduct. We have to know exactly what the demands are for how much we practice every week. You know, how to fit this all into the schedule, right? Because the sooner you instill good habits to young gamers, then they're going to be prepared for the reality that comes with college. So that's a structured environment where accountability is a very important thing. Starting young is just good.
More serious question.
You said more serious?
This is definitely more serious.
Okay. My son's pretty serious. Yes.
In the coming years, do you see esports becoming more popular, even more profitable than more traditional sports?
Oh man, you had to add that last part. It's tricky, right? Because we don't know the extent that the evolution of technology is going to have in the entertainment space. Everybody is already, okay. Has anybody here ever played Pokemon Go? Yeah, right? Me too. I love that. That was great. And it was augmented reality. And it seemed like everybody that I knew was playing Pokemon Go and walking around. You know what I mean? A small thing like that was able to change how people organize themselves on a day-to-day basis. So if we are able to develop esports in things that are already being tested out, like platforms where people have restricted movement to this platform, but they're wearing a full bodysuit, and that's being projected to like a battlefield simulation, for example. They're able to run back with at least stay in place and like maneuver whatever, or like fly a plane, fight simulators, things like that. Essentially, when you think about gaming, especially competitive gaming, it's all simulations, right? So the more industry recognizes, other industries recognize that these could be methods for training people. The military's been doing this for years. They've been training people in video games for years. You know, places like Amazon, I think they're actually starting to use gaming interfaces in their organizations to do training. Just like I showed you folks the MITRE experiments, showing you how people allocate resources and respond to threats and what they choose to do under pressure. Yeah, I mean, it's entirely possible that esports does become bigger than most traditional sports, but then you also have cultural factors as well. Loves football, right? We don't love hockey as much, so that might be easier to overtake. But in a country like Brazil, soccer is going to stay that way, right? More important for people in that culture. So it does depend on the local culture, the region, and the progression of technology. But it will grow. We can't escape technology. It's all we seem to do. Any other questions from folks? I really appreciate everyone's time. So thank you. Thank you very much, folks. No. Thank you for having me. Very much appreciated. And it's good to be with you. I hope this was enlightening for folks in these, Sorry?
Yeah.
I think every few years, unrecognized. Yeah, things were. Yeah.
Yeah, that got it as level.
Exactly. Yeah, you never know, but staying on the forefront